After cooking so many different recipes over the years, one question has always puzzled me. How exactly are we supposed to cook onions? Most recipes simply tell us to cook the onions until they are soft. Then I discovered recipes asking for blonde onions, brown onions, or even caramelized onions. But what do those stages look like? What confused me more is the cooking time. Some recipes said caramelized onions take 10 minutes. Others said almost an hour. How could be both right? Have you ever wondered the same thing? Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Onions are probably the most important ingredients in cooking. So I decided to stop guessing and find the answers myself. After spending hours cooking onions over and over again, I actually learned more than I expected. In fact, it completely changed the way I think about onions. I believe it benefits if you are the same curious. So don't miss out. In today's video, you will see some fun facts of different stages of onions during cooking, how and how long to cook them, and finally I have also prepared some useful tips for you. Let's find out together. When recipes tell you to cook onions until soft, have you ever wondered how soft is soft and why we need to cook it like that? Let's check them out. I have cut one onion into slices. I'm gonna melt butter over medium heat now. On my stove, it's about 3.5 out of 7. Add the onion into the pan and reduce the heat to medium-low. I use 2.5 out of 7. Because my heat is very low, so I don't worry it will get burnt. I just stir them occasionally. After about 5 minutes, they are no longer bright white. They are starting to look slightly translucent. When I push them with my spatula, I can still feel a little crunch. And if I lean in for smell, the sharp onion smell is still there. It hasn't turned sweet yet. At around 10 minutes, something interesting is happening. The onions are losing that solid white color and turning almost translucent. There is even a hint of pale blonde around the edges. When I press them with spatula, they feel much soft now. And the smell? It's changing too. Instead of that sharp raw onion smell, I'm getting a gentle buttery sweetness. Honestly, I think these onions are already good enough for my corn soup. But now I'm curious, what happens if I give them another 5 minutes? So when we add around 15 minutes, the onions have completely lost the crunch, with a beautiful blonde color, and the kitchen smells noticeably sweeter now. I'll stop here and use them for my corn soup. This is what it looks like. Without any sugar, this soup is incredibly creamy with natural sweet. I honestly couldn't believe how naturally sweet it tasted. There is no sugar at all. all that sweetness comes from the slowly cooking the onions. Even my 3-year-old loves this soup, which was a pleasant surprise. If you're introducing solids to a baby, it's also a lovely option. Just need to leave out the salt. That reminded me of something I first learned from the salt, fat, acid, heat. The book explains onions don't really start contributing sweetness until they lost their crunch. The longer they are cooked, the deeper and sweeter their flavor becomes. These days I've actually changed the way I cook. For most everyday dishes, I usually cook onions for at least 8 to 10 minutes before adding anything else. If I have a little more time, I'll leave them even longer because the extra sweetness is absolutely worth it. How long do you usually cook your onions? I'd love to hear your answer in the comments. After discovering how naturally sweet blonde onions could become, another question popped into my mind. At what point does that sweetness start turning into savoriness? Let's find out. This time I'm looking over medium heat instead of low. My wok is set to level 3.5 out of 7. I'll add the little oil, then the onions, and keep them moving so they brown evenly. Wow, they are changing color much faster this time. After only about 5 minutes, tiny brown spots are already appearing around the edges. I think this might be the Maillard reaction beginning to happen. The onions are softer than before, but there was still a little crunch left. Let's give it a bit longer and see what happens. Now we are at about 10 minutes. Look at the color. The onions have turned a beautiful golden brown and they look much softer now. The kitchen smells completely different too. That sharp onion smell has almost disappeared and now I can smell something warm, savory and slightly nutty. I wonder what it tastes like. I can't wait any longer. Let's have a taste. It's still sweet, but there is another flavor coming through. A rich savoriness. I wasn't expecting that. Honestly, I feel it's good enough to add the celery and other ingredients, but I'm still a bit curious. What if I cook it for just a few more minutes? Three minutes later, look at this color. It's become a rich golden brown, and some of the edges are just starting to get really dark. I think this is exactly the stage I was looking for. Any longer and those edges might start burning. Time to add the rest of the ingredients. Something suddenly came to mind. I've always added a teaspoon of sugar to this stir fry. It's what the recipe suggests and it's what I've always done. But these onions are already both sweet and savory. So what if I simply leave the sugar out? Would anyone even notice? So tonight, I'll use these browned onions as flavor base for my celery and mince stir fry without adding any sugar at all. It worked! Honestly, I don't miss the sugar at all. The onions have already brought enough sweetness to balance everything perfectly. I'm so glad I decided to try this. I think this might completely change the way I cook this dish from now on. Out of all 3 stages, this one surprised me the most. Cooking onions over medium heat for 10 to 13 minutes doesn't just make them sweeter. It gives them a whole new savory depth through the Maillard reaction. For me, it's become the perfect stage for stir fries because it adds enough natural sweetness that I no longer need to add sugar. It's a small change, but it's completely changed the way I cook. Finally, we've arrived at the biggest mystery of them all, caramelized onions. The question that confused me the most wasn't what they looked like. It was how long they actually take to cook. Some recipes say 10 minutes, others say nearly 1 hour. Honestly, 10 minutes doesn't sound realistic to me. After all, we already know onions only become soft or lightly browned in about 10 minutes. But 1 hour? That sounded unbelievable too. So I decided to find out for myself. I'll start with 4 onions, sliced nice and thin so they cook evenly. To get things started, I'm heating my pan over medium-high heat, about level 4.5 out of 7 on stove. I'll add a little olive oil, then the onions, and a light sprinkle of salt. Once it begins to soften, reduce to medium or medium-low. I go to 2.5 out of 7 and let time do the work. At this low heat and my thick pan, I'm not worrying about them got burnt at all. I'm gonna stir them every 5 minutes. But if the onions ever start sticking to the bottom, don't panic. Just add a splash of water or even a little vinegar to lift those browned bits back into onions. "26 minutes already. Honestly, I expect them to be much further along by now. They've lost their crunch and become really soft, but they're still nowhere near caramelized. I can still smell that familiar onion aroma too. I think the larger batch is slowing everything down. "35 minutes in. Now we're finally getting somewhere. The onions have turned a beautiful golden color. When I press them with my spatula, they are completely soft. The sharp onion smell has completely disappeared. Instead, the whole kitchen smells warm and sweet. But I still wouldn't call them caramelized onions yet. We are getting close, or at least I hope we are. "42 minutes. I honestly can't believe I've been cooking onions for this long. But look at them now. They are glossy, deep brown, almost like onion jam. For the first time, I completely understand why they are called caramelized onions. But my curiosity gets the better of me. What happens if I give them another 10 minutes? "15 minutes, almost an hour, and wow. Just look at them. They are incredibly glossy and jammy now. They hardly even look like onions anymore. The smell is amazing. Rich, sweet, and almost like toffee. Let's have a taste. They are intensely sweet like onion jam. And yes, I really do get that toffee flavor everyone talks about. And would you believe it? 4 whole onions have shrunk to about the size of a golf ball. Where did all they go? Before doing this experiment, I honestly couldn't imagine spending almost an hour cooking onions. Now I completely understand why. Real caramelized onions simply can't be rushed. I also tried another batch over even lower heat, about level 1.5 on my stove. Believe it or not, those took almost 2 hours to reach the same stage. So if your onions still aren't caramelized after an hour, don't worry. They are probably just taking their time. So, is it actually worth spending an hour cooking onions? For everyday cooking? Probably not. But if you're making a special dish or you simply love cooking, I think the flavor is something everyone should experience at least once. What do you think? Would you spend an hour making caramelized onions? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your answer. After all these experiments, I realized onions aren't just one ingredient. Depending on how long we cook them, onions become completely different ingredients, each with a completely different role in a recipe. Once I understood that, I stopped following cooking times blindly. Instead, I started paying attention to what I could actually see, smell, feel, and taste. Because in the end, cooking isn't about following a timer. It's about learning to understand what your ingredients are telling you. So, how long do you usually cook your onions? Have you ever tried caramelizing them for almost an hour? I'd love to hear your experience in the comments. And if you enjoyed learning alongside me, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in my next cooking experiment.